Today, we're diving into a powerful message from an ancient prophet, a herdsman named Amos. And let me tell you, his warning, delivered more than 2,700 years ago, feels so incredibly sharp and relevant, it's like it could have been written this morning. So I want you to just hold this question in your mind as we go. What if everything that looked successful on the outside, a booming economy, national security, all the cultural achievements, what if all of it was actually just hiding something deeply toxic right at the core? And this is the world Amos walked right into. Israel in the 8th century BC. I mean, on the surface, it was a total golden age. Commerce was booming, the rich were building these lavish homes, and the nation felt powerful and secure. But if you look at the right side of your screen, that prosperity was just a mask. It was all built on a rotten foundation of injustice, where the poor were crushed, the courts were for sale, and a deep, deep moral sickness had really taken hold. And this guy, this is our messenger. His name, Amos, literally means burden bearer, and boy, was he about to deliver a heavy one. Now, here's the kicker. He wasn't some professional prophet or a member of the religious elite. Nope. He was a shepherd, a farmer from the rival kingdom of Judah, a total outsider looking in, called by God to speak a truth that nobody in power wanted to hear. So how does an outsider get a really hostile audience to even listen? Well, Amos uses this brilliant, almost cunning strategy. He doesn't start by pointing the finger at Israel. Oh no, he starts with their enemies. If you look at this map, you can almost see his whole plan unfolding. Imagine him standing up in a public square, but instead of yelling at Israel, he starts to circle them, kind of like a hawk circling its prey. He condemns all the surrounding nations one by one by one. And you can just picture it, right? With each judgment he pronounces, the Israelite crowd is probably nodding along, maybe even cheering. Yeah, get 'em! Those guys deserve it! See, Amos is building agreement. He's luring them right into his trap. First, he points north to Damascus, the capital of Aram. He calls them out for their insane brutality in war, for treating human beings with the savage cruelty of an iron sledge just tearing flesh from bone, and the crowd roars. Then he whips around to Gaza and the Philistines. And their crime? Human trafficking, plain and simple. They captured entire villages and sold them off to Edom for a profit, shattering treaties and destroying whole communities. The crowd totally agrees. A just condemnation, for sure. Next, he moves on to Edom, Israel's estranged brother nation. He calls them out for this relentless, unforgiving hatred, a family feud that had turned into generations of pure bloodshed. And then, this horrifying charge against Ammon, condemned for these acts of unspeakable cruelty, slaughtering pregnant women for the simple reason of grabbing a little more land. By now, the crowd must be feeling like, yes, divine justice is finally being served on everyone else. So Amos has circled the entire map. He's condemned the brutal, the greedy, the hateful. The audience is totally with him. They're all caught up in this righteous anger. But that circle, it's getting tighter and tighter. Who could possibly be left? And this is the moment. This is where the prophet springs his trap. The entire circle of judgment, it was all just a setup for his real target. The prophetic hawk lands. After going after Aram, Philistia, Edom, Ammon, and even its sister kingdom Judah, Amos turns the full force of his message on the very people standing right in front of him. He uses their own agreement, their own sense of justice, as the very standard by which they will now be judged. And what were their crimes? Well, they weren't the spectacular war crimes of foreign nations. No, they were the quiet, everyday sins that fueled their own economy. They were so callous they would sell a person into debt slavery for the price of a pair of sandals. They trampled on the poor, they totally rigged the legal system, and they took part in these degrading sexual rituals. I mean, they'd take a poor man's only cloak as collateral for a loan, which was illegal under their own law, and then go sleep on it in their temples, while drinking wine they bought with fines they'd unjustly slapped on the powerless. Now, here's the thing, and this is absolutely crucial. The Israelites were still very religious people. They went to the temple, they offered sacrifices, they sang all the right songs. But Amos delivers this devastating message straight from God. All of it is worthless. Just imagine hearing this.
God himself says he hates their religious festivals. He can't stand the sound of their worship songs. And it's not because the rituals themselves were wrong. It was because the people performing them were living lives of injustice and oppression from Monday to Saturday. Their Sunday worship was a complete lie. This is what God actually wants. Not more songs, not more sacrifices, but a society where justice isn't just a trickle, but a flood. A relentless, powerful, life-giving force, as constant as a mighty river. This is the absolute heart of Amos's message.
A message like that? Well, you can't say things like that and not expect consequences. Amos lays out the grim reality of what's coming for Israel. But right at the very end, there is a shocking twist. First, Amos reminds them this judgment isn't just coming out of nowhere. God had already sent warning shots. He sent famine, he sent drought, he sent disease and military defeats. 5 times God tried to get their attention, and 5 times the text says, still, you did not come back to me. They just refused to connect the dots. And because they ignored all those warnings, the final judgment was going to be catastrophic. Amos predicts a 90% casualty rate. Think about that. For every 1,000 soldiers that march out, only 100 come back. An entire generation of their strongest and bravest just wiped out. The nation as they knew it was going to be annihilated. And here it is. The verdict, spoken by God through the prophet. It sounds absolutely final. The sinful kingdom will be wiped off the map. End of story. But then, right away, comes this astonishing turn. It is the but that changes everything. Destruction, it turns out, will not be the final word. Despite everything they've done, God promises he's going to preserve a remnant. He's going to sift his people, judging the guilty, but saving a core through which he can still work. And the book ends not with fire and brimstone, but with this incredible vision of total restoration. A day is coming when the broken kingdom will be rebuilt. The land will be so impossibly fruitful, it's a picture of supernatural blessing. And the people will finally be secure in their home, never to be exiled again. It's this amazing promise of hope rising directly from the ashes of judgment. So we end right back where we started, with a question for us. Amos's message forces us to look past our own rituals, our traditions, our national pride, and to ask a really hard question about the reality of our own world. When what we say we believe collides with how we actually live, what does a justice that flows like a river demand from us right here, right now?